Hi there, my name is Toby and this is principle number 2 in the series, and this is called the cantilever effect. Now before we start, I want to take you through a cantilever, and it goes like this. Imagine you've got a platform and you want to stand someone at the end of this platform. And if you build it like this, just with a straight platform and a straight line down, this is quite weak because all you've got is this pivot point there. And of course, either it's going to break off or the whole thing will just fall over. So you strengthen this up by creating a cantilever, and a cantilever is this on the right here. So what you do is extend the platform back past the upright post. So now you've got a pivot. So if you push down there, that one will go up. And you prevent that one from going up by tying a rope or a wire or a spring or something there down to the post. So now this position is held not only by the upright post, but by the leverage of this whole cantilever going down the post. This is much stronger, and we want to create this in our body. If we can create this cantilever in our body, it's very efficient, and we do this by structuring the bones. We've got to move our bones into the right position to do that. And there's two ways we do it. We do a big cantilever, and this is how you would lean forward. You lean forward not in the spine, because we remember from the first principle, we're trying to keep a neutral spine, but we use the hip joint itself. So here I'm pivoting forward, leaning forward at the hips. Now I'm holding my hands at the waist, the shoulders up and back a bit to ensure I've got a backwards arch. I'm not changing the spine. And what I'm doing here is levering at the hips, projecting the hip bones backwards. I'm actually feeling a stretch in the hip joint, and then I squeeze the glutes to drive myself up again. That was with straight legs, so you can just isolate the hips. Now with bent legs, it's the same thing. As I lever forward, I'm not moving the spine, I'm keeping that backwards arch, but I'm projecting out the hips backwards. I'm taking it into a stretch in the hips, and this is creating a cantilever. If I can project the leg bone, the thigh bone gets projected backwards in the pelvis. What happens is it stretches the tendons in the hip joint itself, and that holds the weight up. It's much more efficient. Now here again, standing up, how do we do this in the arms? So that was a big cantilever. Now we're doing this in a small cantilever. So from this nice vertical spine position, once I've got that, now holding up one arm, you can see now when I pivot the arm, the shoulder just pivots. But what I do to create a cantilever is pull the shoulder back. So here you can see shoulder forward, there's the shoulder back. Now what's happening here is I've changed the pivot. So when the hand goes up and down, I'm actually lifting the arm up and down by pulling the shoulder backwards in the socket, backwards and down. So doing this very slowly so you can see a bit better. See, I lever the arm up, but I lift the shoulder up, pull the shoulder up and back to lift the arm up. So that shoulder forward is much harder. It's much harder to do. It isolates the shoulder muscle at the top there. If I pull the shoulder back, it now activates the scapula, the rib cage. So by lifting the shoulder up and then pulling it backwards using the scapula, using the rib cage, I'm activating all the back muscles to help lift the arm up. Now here you can see more and more. It's not just pivoting the shoulder, it's moving the shoulder in the joint. I lift the shoulder up and pull the shoulder back, and this creates a cantilever. Now the actual scapula, the spine, the rib cage, and all the back muscles are activated, and they're pulling down, they're tight, and this holds the arm up more than just the shoulder muscles. So you've got to play around with it, but this is a simple exercise to do. Shrug up the shoulders, pull the shoulders back and down, and as you do that, you'll see it naturally levers the arms up. And then to hold the arms up in front, you're not trying to hold the arms up. What you're doing is concentrating on lifting the shoulder up and pulling it back and down. And this creates much more strength out to the arm, to the fist. So we want to use that, of course, in martial arts, but you use it in all functional things, just lifting something up. You just experiment trying to lift something using this method. Your arm gets a bit shorter as well, because you're pulling the shoulder back, the arm gets shorter, and this reduces the leverage and makes it easier to hold the hand at the front. So this is a method of using your structure to increase your strength. You're not using any more muscle strength, you're just changing the way you use your body. Now here you see I'm just moving around a bit randomly, but what I'm doing is concentrating on feeling the shoulder and the cantilever in the shoulder. I'm holding the shoulder up and back and activating the scapula, activating the rib cage, so it's more than just my shoulders. And here you can see a big fluid movement. This is how you can practice it nice and easy. See, arms go shrug up and then go down. So you slowly shrug up, lift up, then pull the shoulders back and down, and this makes the arm go up. But now as you do the opposite, as the arms go down, you lift the shoulders up. Shoulders go up, lever down, and then drop the shoulders. So you shrug up, pull back, arms float up, and then as you come down, the shoulders go up again. You see, you're pivoting around the shoulder, not in the middle of the shoulder. It's slightly different. What you're doing is activating the tendons, the ligaments in the shoulder joint itself to move the arm. Now you can see here in the legs and the hips, if I tuck the pelvis under to go down, it's very difficult. You see, this will compromise the spine. And it's the same thing here. If I'm just pivoting in the middle of the hips, tucking the pelvis under to even lift the leg up, you can see it curls the spine forward. Now I'm trying to resist this. I'm changing the position by projecting the hips backwards. This is creating a cantilever in the hip joint. So the lower I go down, the further I project the hips back. I'm stretching the thigh bone in the pelvis itself. I'm creating a stretch in the ligaments around the hip joint. I'm not compromising the spine. So I go up and down by stretching or creating this cantilever in the hips themselves. I'm isolating it right into the hip joint here. The lower I go, the further the hip bone projects, and as I come up, I push the pelvis back, push the bones back in again, squeeze the glutes. And it's the same for lifting the leg up. Here I'm curling it under, here I'm projecting it back. So when I project, what I'm doing here is concentrating on pulling the thigh bone back in the pelvis to lift the leg up. This will also use the psoas muscle. Now this makes it much easier to hold the leg up. I'm not just using the front, the thigh muscle. See again here, I'm curling under, uses the front. Now I'm pulling the hip backwards. I'm creating a cantilever by projecting the hips backwards, and this uses the psoas muscle and it uses the ligaments around the hip. It's much, much stronger. You see, this whole training is about using the ligaments more than the muscles, the tendons more than the muscles, and these are the things that control the body structure, the alignment. So the focus now is not on lifting the leg up, the focus is on pulling the hip backwards or pulling the thigh bone backwards in the pelvis. It's a totally different thing. You're not focusing on lifting the leg, you're focusing on projecting the hip behind you. It's a very interesting thing to do, but if you practice this, you'll find how easy your leg goes up. It's much easier. And again, your leg gets a little bit shorter, and that again makes it easier. You're reducing the leverage. And here you can see I'm moving my legs sideways as well to do different kicks. I'm going up and down just to show you different movements. But the focus is always on the same thing. I'm creating a cantilever in my hip joint. I'm stretching the thigh bone in the pelvis. I'm actually moving the joint in the socket. You see, it's not about just pivoting at the hips and the shoulders. It's about stretching the hips and the shoulders. And now you see I'm just moving about a bit randomly doing both. So in other words, I keep a neutral spine, I keep the shoulders up and back a little bit, and I keep the hips projected back a little bit. See, only when I go up straight do I push the hips in. When I bend, I project the hips out. This is the secret. I'm moving the joint in the socket. I'm stretching the tendons. Now also please do check out two videos here. I made the cantilever effect in much greater detail. There's part 1 and part 2 in which I explain this with diagrams so you can really understand what is going on inside the body. So I do recommend you watch those two videos here, or the third one that I've also put up there. So thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for principle number 3, again coming very soon, and I look forward to seeing you in any of these videos here.